Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. On the 2nd of June, the Russian delegation will meet the Ukrainian delegation in Istanbul for the next round of peace talks or ceasefire talks. It depends who you're talking to. So, in this video, I will show you who actually negotiates for the Ukrainians, who will show up in Istanbul. So let me give you a little history or summary. They met on the 16th of May, the delegations of the Russians and the Ukrainians. They presented one another with some, this is what I want to do, this is what, some conditions. They then parted ways and they were going to meet again. Now they're going to meet on the 2nd. In the meantime, the Russians said, we will prepare a memorandum with our view on how this talks will occur, what are our expectations, our terms for a long-lasting, just peace. And we're going to submit it to you, the Ukrainians, the Ukrainian delegation, my bad. Okay, because Ukrainians are a people and the Ukrainian delegation is different. So we're going to provide it to the Ukrainian delegation, the memorandum, and we'll provide it to the Americans as well. Americans already received the ceasefire demands or terms from the Ukrainian delegation, which was already given to the Americans and the Russians. The Russians have to provide, as they said they will, the Ukrainians and the Americans with their memorandum after the 1,000 POWs exchange completed. It has completed. So now they said it's ready and we will provide this memorandum to the Ukrainians on the 2nd of June in Istanbul when we meet. The Ukrainians have a fit about it and they're very angry because they want to receive the memorandum before they go to Istanbul. We're going to discuss why they want that issued before, who is going to be in Istanbul from the Russian side and from the other side, and we'll discuss what could be the outcome of the second round of talks in 2025, because the first ones were in 2022. All right, so let's start with the first article coming from Sputnik about the Russian delegation. So, Russian delegation heads to Istanbul for second round of Ukraine talks on Monday, 2 hours ago. And the delegation of Russian negotiators is leaving for Istanbul, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Friday. So that means the Ukrainians already agreed to the 2nd of June because the Russians proposed it and it seems like the Ukrainians agreed to it if these guys are moving that way. You can't just say, if we want to schedule a meeting, I say, okay, I meet you on the 2nd of June in Istanbul and I'm leaving. Well, you proposed it, I have to agree with it. That's how you schedule meetings, unless you impose things. But how can you impose? The Ukrainians say, we disagree with that, we meet on the 5th. And the Russians have to say, okay, let's see. And I'm quoting, I also wanted to inform you today that our delegation, the Russian delegations of negotiators, is leaving for Istanbul, end quote, Peskov told journalists. The Russian delegation in Istanbul will be ready on Monday morning for the second round of talks with Ukraine, the official added. As I said, it's like you go to the bar or you meet a woman or a man, regardless, and you say, okay, you know what, we're going to meet outside in 5 minutes. See you, and I'm leaving towards out. She didn't agree with that, did she? If she did, she's going to meet you outside. Otherwise, she's going to say, I didn't agree to anything yet. So, the details of the Russian draft memorandum on Ukrainian settlement will not be made public, Peskov said. Of course, nothing will be made public. It cannot be made public, Peskov told reporters. No question. Any leaks from the Kremlin, like in the United States of America, or from those guys who like the media, the Western media, which is the guys from Ukraine, how come there's no leaks? Well, sometimes you leak something to the media as, showing the position. It's a psychological warfare. And sometimes you just have traitors. So let's going on here. The discussion, Moscow expects the Russian and Ukrainian draft memoranda will be discussed during the second round of talks in Istanbul. Okay, that's great. And this is what these guys say. right here. Ukraine memorandum include provisions for ceasefire monitoring by international partners. So they say provisions for ceasefire, so these are the conditions, and monitoring by international partners. Now we know partly what it includes. All right, and here is the Ukrainian defense minister, right? Because he's Ukrainian. Ukraine's memorandum on the settlement of the conflict includes the provisions of a ceasefire on land, at sea, in the sky, and for its monitoring by international partners. International partners will not be any NATO country. I mean, if they agree with that, that means they are in the same boat. On Wednesday, will memorandum is ready to present to Ukrainian side with a memorandum on the settlement during a second round of talks. So Lavrov said, we're going to give the Ukrainians the memorandum on June 2nd. He says here, at the same time, the Kremlin said that Russia has not yet received a response from Ukraine to its proposal to hold talks in Istanbul on Monday. But you're leaving? This is 54 minutes ago, right? The other article, right here, that I started with, it's 2 hours ago. But these guys are heading towards that, but they didn't receive the response from the, from the Ukrainians. Nevertheless, let's go back to the memorandum. That's it. That's all what you need to know about this one, they say. So no response, but they're going. Okay. Russia Today, the 29th of May. I go chronologically, okay, build up to the conclusion here. Well, not the conclusion, but you have to go chronologically. Russia reveals steam for next round of Ukraine peace talks. So this is from yesterday. Remember, the first article that I started with, this is from today, 2 hours ago, the 30th of May. So yesterday, the delegation led by presidential aide Vladimir Medinsky, the one who received death threats together with his family. Oh, meow, meow, you're here? Okay, what's going on? Will be the same as during the opening session. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has said. Okay, so it's going to be the same guys. We are ready to begin substantive discussions on framework agreement for a proposal ceasefire. So they're ready to discuss the ceasefire. They're going to be having a ceasefire like, oh, crazy. All right. Next one. Ukrainska Pravda. I had the cat here, and a cat is going to sit on the desk and makes room by pushing itself in my monitor, so I have to adjust it so I can see. So you know how the cats are. And then you have to adjust. You can't make a cat do shit. They're the boss, man. They're the boss. All right, let's go to the next one and see what the Ukrainian side is saying regarding the memorandum and the meetings on the proposal for the June 2nd. Ukrainska Pravda. This is Friday, today, at noon, at 1 o'clock. Actually, no, this is, yeah, it's noon. Otherwise, it would be 00 by these guys. So it's noon. It's it's almost 1 o'clock p.m. Their time. So subtract 7, you find USA Eastern time. Ukraine is ready for talks, but still waits for Russia's memorandum. Ukraine's foreign minister. But the other guy said, we haven't received yours either. Now someone is lying, or both. Andriy Sybiha, foreign minister of Ukraine, has said that Ukraine is ready for the next round of talks with Russia. Excellent, good. But is still waiting for Moscow to sign the promised text of a ceasefire memorandum. What are you talking about? To sign the promised text. Andriy Sybiha at the joint press conference with Pap, and this is what he says. Regarding the meetings in Turkey, we are interested in having these meetings go on. Excellent, very good. We want to end this war this year. We are interested in establishing a ceasefire. Good. Ukraine will openly discuss this directly with Russia. No. We'll discuss it with Russia, but the decisions will be made by other people that I'm going to reveal in this video. We confirmed this during the recent meetings of our delegation with the Russian side. The Ukrainian foreign minister added, he's Ukrainian indeed, yes he is, added that Ukraine has already handed over its vision of future steps and conditions for future ceasefire to the Russian side following the previous meeting in Istanbul. What are you talking about? Let's go. These guys said, at the same time, the Kremlin said that Russia has not yet received a response from Ukraine to its proposal to hold talks over there. Okay, Good, but where is the memorandum? Is ready to present a memorandum to these guys. Excellent, very good. Let's see what Sybiha has to say. We are also waiting for the memorandum from Russian side. It was announced. As it was announced, we expect it in advance, before the next meeting. This was also promised to the American side. Yes, it was. But was it promised in advance, before the next meeting, or it was promised? Remember that story with Aristotle, when he goes to the neighbor and says, "Hey, Gigi, yes, I need some milk. My goat died. Can I have your goat? I will bring it back." And the guy says, "Yeah, you can have my goat. You bring it back, I bring it back." Okay, so Aristotle takes the goat, and after about a month, he didn't give the goat back. So the neighbor comes and says, "Hey, Aristotle, where's my goat?" "Oh, he's right here, doing just fine." "Well, you're going to give it to me back?" Aristotle said, "Yes." "Well, you said you're going to give it to me back." "Yes, I said I will, but I didn't say when." So the same here. Yeah, I will give the Americans the memorandum. I will give the Ukrainians the memorandum, but I didn't say when. I said only after the swap of the 1,000 POWs, which it happened. But if you know mathematics, you know that it's open. So after that, every time until the end of the world, I have room and time to give it to you. So you have to always, when you talk, "We're going to give it to me?" "Yeah, I will." "So I need you to do this." "Okay, I'll do it." If they don't say now or when, "Yeah, I do it." When, it matters. Are you going to give it back? "Yeah, when." All right, so here it is. This was also promised to the American side. It is important the document is provided in advance. I know it's important, and I will disclose to you, my friends, why it's important. It's provided in advance for the next meeting to be productive. Sybiha explained that this is important, of course, as this will permit the delegation going to the talks to discuss the relevant positions. So this is the way it is. When we meet somewhere, and supposedly we are delegated with power, of decisions. You go over there, it's my balls and your balls. They were going to meet over there. It's not like, oh no, you give me this, I take the document, and I go and I discuss it with everybody else, and then I come over. It can work that way, but the Russians want to expose the Ukrainians, I think, in showing the world that actually, no, it's not the Ukrainians, because the guy said, "Yeah, give me the memorandum here. I'm going to look over it in front of you. I'm going to read it." Now, I don't know how many pages it is. I'm going to read it, look over it, and I'm going to tell you a few words about it. I have no problem doing that. And we meet tomorrow after I speak with the same guys, which are the guys who... So Sybiha wants this. He wants the memorandum, send it to his masters. The masters will discuss, and then they will tell Sybiha what to do and what to say. That's the whole thing. And the Russians said, no, we're going to give it to you and see how you're going to react. And the guys say, "Oh, no, don't do this. It's not us making decisions, are those guys over there." I'm just saying, maybe it's not like that. But hey, let's read further. Sybiha, right, again. Russia must submit ceasefire proposal before Istanbul talks. Must. Are you scared, homie? It seems like he's scared. Ukraine is interested in continuing peace talks in Istanbul, but for them to be effective, the Russia must submit its proposed ceasefire memorandum in advance, in line with prior agreements. Well, if the Russians agreed to send it, to give it before, they can give it just a minute before they start the meeting. Now, is it fair from the Russians? I don't think the Russians care. I tell you why. I think the Russians' goal in this one is to give this spin of the whole thing. The Ukrainians. They want to show who actually is advising the Ukrainians. This conversation here is not between the Russians and the Ukrainians. No, it's between the Russians and the guys who are the initiators in Ukraine. NATO, United States. This guy need a memorandum, and the Europeans, because I'm going to show you who's waiting in Istanbul with the Ukrainians. So that delegation of these countries are already in Istanbul waiting. You can't make shit up. I mean, it's clear. So the Russians, because listen, as I said, if the Ukrainians receive the memorandum during the meeting, they can say this: "Thank you very much, thank you very much. See you after we discuss the memorandum in 3 days. I don't know, in Beijing." Then the Russians say, "Oh, you're not serious about negotiating." That's what the Russians will say. Will put the blame on the Ukrainians as if they don't want to negotiate. I would have given that the memorandum. Why not go and start it? But the problem is, the other guys probably would have not even showed up if they read it, or the mass media in the West would already have informed us before the meetings what the memorandum contains. So, let's see what else is here. Next one. Russia Today. Ukraine has sent ceasefire terms to Russia. Talks envoy. This is on the 28th. So, Umerov, the Tatar Ukrainian, he says that I expect response from Moscow. I sent you the ceasefire terms. I handed over our documents to the head of the Russian delegation, which reflects the Ukrainian position. Very good. They received this document. We are not opposed to further meetings with the Russians and are awaiting their memorandum, so the next meeting won't be empty and can truly move us closer to ending the war. All right, let's go to this one. Kremlin response to Ukraine's criticism of peace proposal. 29th. Kiev's demands for early access to a Russian draft memorandum are unconstructive, end quote. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said. Why? Ukraine demands that Russia immediately delivers. No, it's not immediately. Ukraine wants you to deliver it before the meeting so they have a time to discuss with these guys. US, German, British, French representatives will attend the Istanbul meeting. Yeah, these are the masters. And this is from today, the 30th, at 12:24 p.m. Got that? Now you know who's going to discuss the memorandum. So immediately, its draft roadmap for ceasefire talks are undermining diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict. Delegations from both countries are expected to meet soon to discuss. Okay, let's see. In response, Ukraine officials criticized Moscow for not sharing its document ahead of time, accusing Russia of stalling the talks process. Yes, Peskov, why didn't you do that? Let's see. And I'm quoting Peskov. Demanding to see the Russian document immediately is just unconstructive. Why, Peskov? They should either confirm they are prepared for talks or say otherwise. Peskov, I think that's a weasel move. Why? I mean, don't tell me why it's unconstructive. All right. So again, Ukraine Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, this guy right here, boom, boom, boom. The Kiev's lead negotiator, so the Tatar in charge of Ukrainian nation, on Wednesday, said that already sent Ukraine's draft to Moscow and claimed Russia was delaying its response. Foreign Minister Sybiha echoed the sentiment, insisting Russia should immediately submit their proposal for our consideration, not your consideration, right there. This is for these guys' considerations, my friends. And that's great if that happens. That happens. Vladimir Medinsky, it doesn't say anything about that. We're going to go to the last part, the most important, I would say. This baboon right here. Ukrinform, Ukrainian media outlet, the 30th of May 2025, today, Friday. Kellogg, US, German, British, French representatives will attend the Istanbul meeting. Why? I tell you why. Because under the mask of the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, it's actually the negotiation between Russia and the NATO. That's what it is. Russia, I know, attacked Ukraine unprovoked, but they say that they entered because of NATO's expansion. Said, you try to go into Ukraine, we're going to go in Ukraine and we're going to kill you up. And the guy said, unprovoked. Okay, we're going to do it nevertheless. So now again, you see it. It's actually the negotiations. The Americans, the French and the Germans and the Brits do not want to concede defeat. They can't tell their baboons, hey guys, we lost another one. No, they can't. We're the strongest somehow. Why? We identify as the strongest. All right. So that's what they do. They're going to say that, send the Ukrainians as being the loser, when actually they are the loser, saying the messenger. But they talk to the Russians through the messenger. And Trump is allowed to play by the Russians, the mediator. The United States of America is not the mediator. Is the losing side of the war. And they don't want to portray it, as I said before, to the American public. Because these guys are gonna, I don't know, they're gonna, not gonna go to work anymore, being all crying, I don't know. But they don't want portrayed like that. We lost another one, boys. And that's a big one. What can we do? They want to be the leaders. We are the leaders. We solve all the problems. We are in charge. We impose sanctions. And you with your organization could not kneel one country, Russia. And economically, with the tariffs, you cannot kneel another one country, China. That's good, because that shows your limitations, and you can restructure, reassess your position, and you get starts practicing again and replan. That's it. That's good. Always is good to see your defects so you can work on them and turn them into positives, into strength points. So if you think you're all good and all smart and all handsome and all suave, then you're never going to be able to understand why you failed there, why you failed there. You're going to always say, the self-attribution complex or whatever it is. It's because everybody else. No, it's because of you. You lost that one. It was not because Yemen is, you withdraw because they smack you. Oh, we withdraw from Afghanistan because we won it. No, it's not like that. You made your profit and you got out. That's true. But it was unsustainable. So let's go back to these guys. So, National Security Advisor from Germany, France, and United States and United Kingdom will attend Ukraine-Russia peace talks in Istanbul on Monday. Do you think the Russians will allow them in? Where is that? There's a beautiful picture somewhere with these guys, all of them lined up right there. Do you think these guys will allow them in the room? I mean, they could allow them, but that would mean, I'm talking about the Russians, but that would mean that they will give the authority to the other guys, which is fine, because it's going to be, we won, we got you, like Khrushchev got JFK to the negotiating table with the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's exactly what he did. You don't want to talk to us, you don't want to take your Jupiter's nuclear warheads, missiles in Turkey, it's fine, we're going to put them in Cuba. Oh, you won't there. Watch me. And exactly what they did. And in 6 months after the Cuban Missile Crisis, America agreed with a memorandum to withdraw its nuclear warheads, missiles, Jupiter, from Turkey. So who won? The Russians told them, that was the whole point at the beginning. You cannot have missiles in Turkey, nuclear missiles deployed in Turkey. And the Americans said exactly like in Ukraine. Ukraine will be NATO. What are you going to do about it? And Putin said, like Khrushchev, we're going to show you. And they made it. In 6 months, the Americans took their missiles from Jupiter from Turkey. So who won? JFK? Okay. And the same here. Remember the Russians, their attempts in October, November, December 2021 and January, February 2022, before they attacked unprovoked Ukraine, they talked to NATO, talk to us, give us guarantees, security guarantees that you were not going to do it here next to on our porch. And the other guys said what? No, what are you going to do about it? And Putin did exactly what the other guy did. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go to war. Let's go. Bring it on. And now they are going to be in the room again, right there. They will be, according to these guys, they will attend the peace discussions. And I'm quoting, we'll have what we call a E3 with us. That is the National Security Advisors from Germany, France, and Great Britain. All right. When we were in London, they kind of helped us model a team sheet for Ukraine. Oh, helped us mold a term sheet for Ukraine. And they'll be there in Istanbul as well. That's the Ukrainians. And they'll be there. So we made it without them, and now we're going to negotiate. We're going to advise them. And we'll get their feedback as well, Kellogg. He noted that reasonable discussions will include NATO membership. That's why the guys wanted to talk, the Russians wanted to talk in 2021, 2022. And the status of the Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson regions, areas where Russian troops are currently present, as well as Crimea, which is temporarily occupied by Russia. And I'm quoting, these are things where we are going to discuss when we get into Istanbul next week. We'll sit down and talk. What does it look like? What are your feelings on it? I tell you what are your feelings on it. He also added that neither Washington nor Kiev has yet seen the memorandum on ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine that Moscow has promised to provide. Remember Aristotle, I will give the goat back. I didn't say when. I said after the exchange. After the exchange could be in 5 years. Oh my God, my friends. And here is on Wednesday 28. Tralala. On Thursday, Zelensky said that Russia has still not provided Ukraine or its partners with memorandum containing ceasefire proposals. Right there. These guys proposed in Istanbul. The Russians proposed. Ukrainian Sybiha suggested that Russia hand over its ceasefire proposal immediately rather than waiting until Monday. So it was the Russians, otherwise they would say, the Russians did not agree to give them the memorandum before the meeting. Why? Because the meeting was not scheduled at that time. When they discussed about the memorandum was right after the May 16 meeting in Istanbul, the first one for this year. And then they said, we're going to send it to you. It was not, obviously, I mean, it goes without saying, I'm giving to you before the meetings. It would make sense. But you see who's at the meeting? Who tried to worm themselves in? The same guys. It's good because it's going to be the Russians. I'm going to say, right, nice. Thank you very much for attending US, UK, France, Germany, and Ukraine. We wanted to have this conversation peacefully in 2021, but you were too arrogant and you thought you're going to kneel us through us getting into Ukraine. We got in Ukraine, we beat your asses, and right now is going on what? I'm still on here. Yeah. And what's going on right now? Unfortunately for you, you cannot defeat us. So you have to be here after 3 years and a half almost. We got you here. So let's talk. This is again the same unconditional or non-negotiable on the table as they were in 2021 and 2022. But you didn't want to talk about them. You want to talk about them now? And I think the guys will say no. That's my gut feeling. Saying no because we make a lot of profit at the expense of the Russians, the Ukrainians, and the baboons in our countries that will be hit economically. But who cares? We make profit. That's all that matters. Viva la revolution. Here is, my friends. I'm not sure if the Ukrainians will show up, but it's not up to them. The four will make them. I don't know if this guy's gonna show up in the room, will attend, or they're gonna be the advisors in the background. It's very tricky. It's very dirty, and it's very ugly. You know what's gonna determine the outcome in Ukraine? Not negotiations. Who's gonna win in the field? That's what's gonna be. It's not gonna be we negotiate. It's gonna be we surrender. But the West cannot say it because remember, long after we're gone, if we survive an atomic war, all right, there's gonna be history written by different countries, and there are gonna be different interpretations of the events in Ukraine. But the fact is, these guys could not defeat Russia, and it was Russia against about 30-some countries, NATO, European Union, plus the baboons in New Zealand, Australia, South Korea, Japan, Palau and Zapalau and Papua New Guinea and all the islands of Tahiti and Fiji. Oh, this is it, my friends. The history will be written like that. Unfortunately for these guys, and they have to say it after a while. Yes, we couldn't kneel them, and they don't want it that way. And they want to show it like it was Ukraine and Russia, and we just intervened and we brought peace like always. The Americans, after they do something, they are the guys who are negotiating. Hey, everybody, stop, man, stop. I'm gonna, like a daddy here. I'm gonna decide what's going on. It was you all the time, man, all the way. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.